G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to Cold Waters with Mags, and welcome to a by request mod series. So a lot of you have messaged me over the last week or so asking me to take a look at Epicmod, and this is Epicmod 2.22. It is the current version. I will have a link to it in the video description down below. Epicmod is not a new mod. It was developed for by and for the Russian community. However, it's only recently that it started receiving an English translation, although that English translation is not currently complete, as you will see. I'll show a bit of this here in just a second. But anyway, what is Epicmod? Well, it is a major replacement and update for the game. It changes the way the AI reacts, it increases the difficulty level, and increases the realism. It reworks most of the systems in the game that already exist in terms of combat and gameplay, while adding entirely new features as well. It does add some new submarines, not as many as playable subs and more, but those submarines are significantly better worked. It also adds a global map and surface fleet playable combat, as you will see. Along with some, let's go to campaign here, along with some RPG elements as well. So there are, now on some of the campaigns, you will actually earn experience as you are performing and completing missions. If you do particularly well, your crew members and your crew in general will skill up, and it will affect certain things in regards to your submarines. For example, your torpedoes may reload faster, your decoys may reload faster, you'll be able to change depth or change direction, so on and so forth, a little bit quicker. The overall performance of your submarine will improve. So some light RPG elements are included as well. The big catch with Epicmod is it is still in the process of being translated. So you can see the NATO campaigns here. These, as far as I can tell, are mostly redone in English, so I think they're fine. But they are in beta at the moment. They have not been completed. Some of the others, such as North Atlantic 1984 for the Soviet Union, has not been translated yet. I've also noticed with some of the ones that have been, I believe I was testing the 1984 Global Manx campaign, some of the mission briefings that would pop up were actually in Cyrillic rather than English, which isn't so much of an issue for things when it comes to driving the submarines. I know the game well enough, I can drive the submarines regardless of what language the UI is in, but when you're getting mission instructions to go to a location and do a thing, if I can't read them, it makes it a bit unplayable. So it is still a work in progress. We are going to do one of the NATO campaigns. In fact, we're going to do North Atlantic 1984 and a 688, which is normally the first campaign that people play in Cold Waters the first time they go in. The reason why we're doing this one is I've never actually completed the 688 1984 campaign on this channel. At the time I originally did it, back when I first started covering Cold Waters, I was modding the game heavily while it was still in development, and one of the mods actually broke the save midway through the campaign. So we're going to do this again now, but we're going to do it with Epicmod so that the difficulty level is significantly higher, and it should be fairly interesting. Alright, so we have our new Los Angeles class submarine, the USS Philadelphia SSN 690. We're docked at Holy Lock. It's 22nd of November 1984. Now, as you can see, some of this isn't translated, but most of it is, so we're fine. One interesting thing about this mod is it adds new mission types as well. I have seen a mission where the objective was to destroy offshore oil rigs. So that's good. One of the major issues with Cold Waters is once you've played it for a while, the missions do get repetitive, so more missions is better. Anyways, what have we got? Intelligence data shows that the enemy is going to replenish the ammunition and provisions of their ships in the eastern Norwegian Sea. The supply ships will depart from You're tasked to intercept and destroy this convoy. Alright, so it's pretty much just a standard hunt down the resupply ships mission. We've seen these before, they're in the default game. A little disappointing, I would have liked one of the new ones, but that's alright. We're going to get these. Simple as that. Alright, so rearm and repair. Now, they've only got 26 units on the 688, so I'm going to strip some stuff back here. We go down to 4 on the Moss, and everything else into the Mark 48s, because torpedoes are important. So 14 and 4, and 4 Moss. Okay, that will do. Actually, we're going to reload one of the Moss into the tubes by default as well. That's it, 6 hours in port to depart, and we are, just quick review orders, Eastern Norwegian Sea. Alright. Now on the world map, we appear as just a box with a dot in the center, which is actually good because we can more easily locate where we're supposed to be, rather than having the large submarine icon, although the large submarine icon still does exist for enemy units. We're going to try and intercept this submarine here. It's not our target. Come on, come on, come on. There we go, we got it. I think we'll be at 10 knots. Yes, speed is 10 knots. So, sonar contact bearing 7-3 designates Sierra 1. Weak surface duct, thermal layer at 95 feet. That's really shallow. That's so shallow it's almost unusable. We're close to 15 kiluyards. We're at 150 feet, so we're just underneath that thermal layer. And we'll go straight to silent running. Alright, so Sierra 1 directly ahead. Let's see if we can get a signature. And we've got one to our rear as well. Alright, so we'll get a locale, get a and a 3. Not quite. It's close though. That is a trawler. Sierra 3 is also a trawler.
Sierra 3 is classified as merchant.
Sierra 4 is also a trawler.
Sierra 4 is classified as merchant.
Wow, we're right underneath the fishing fleet. Everything we're detecting at the moment are trawlers, or at least they appear to be. Alright, so we need to find out. Well, that one. Yeah, I'm not sure about ranges here. Regardless, we are going to have a little bit of a listen to what's going on. So this is one of the first changes. You'll notice, if we are looking at our settings over here, 72 on active, 56 on passive, and our towed array is showing as 0. Now normally the towed array, providing you're below a certain speed and you're more than 200 feet off the bottom, automatically gives you a reading in cold waters. However, that is not the case with this mod. This is one of the mechanics that's been reworked and sort of added as a new option. If you watch this side, we now have to deploy the towed array, and we have to retract it too. Now, I haven't done any heavy maneuvering with it deployed, but I imagine with what they're going for with realism, if you start trying to turn beyond a certain extent with the towed array deployed, you're going to hit it with your prop, and that's probably going to damage it, and you'll lose its functionality. We now have a Sierra 5, so I'm going to make a turn.
Come right to 091 LI.
And we should probably retract the towed array too, because that's a right-hand turn, and we don't want to pull the cable into the props. In fact, we're going to run straight until it's retracted. Cool.
Come right to
Now we make the turn, and complete the turn.
LI.
Bit of a time acceleration here. Should be good now. Redeploy the towed array. Although we're almost directly underneath the fishing boat. There's one right above us here at the moment.
Steady course.
They're just about to pop up. Things are a bit slower to pop up now as well. The actual time between getting a full solution and actually being able to see them on the 3D map, or on the 3D view, it's much slower to respond, so you can't rely on it as much as you would in the previous games. You'll also notice, or the previous standard version, vanilla version, you'll also notice that while underwater, your actual view range is significantly reduced. This ship is just there. We cannot see it, and it's right there in the 3D view. The 3D view isn't good for any more than a couple of 100 meters. Nothing renders outside of that, which essentially puts it at about the same visual range in the water as what I think the ultra high frequency, like the navigational sonar that some subs use, is represented at. So regardless, it means you can no longer use the 3D view as a major thing. You have to rely on the map here. So we're at 45%. Now this is not a trawler. I expect this is probably our submarine. We haven't got much of a signal on it. Could be a Foxtrot. Judging by those two lines at the front, seem to be lined up here. I'm lined up here. This one's hard to tell, but I'm definitely on these two. I reckon this is possibly a Foxtrot. A bit disappointing. I was hoping for something a little bit angrier there. And it's running slow. It's only at 6 knots at the moment. Having trouble getting a better solution because this trawler is running straight over the top of us at the moment. So, do we have a depth? It's down at about 700 feet. It's definitely a submarine. Definitely a submarine. 76%. 16.7 kiloyards. Why this trawler's over the top of us? Yeah, we'll go active. Torpedo away.
Aye, sir.
I'm going to try and loop this one around behind the Foxtrot, and there we go. We now have 95% solution on the Foxtrot. It is in fact a Foxtrot. It is diving. It's getting down to 1,000 feet. 1,250. Yeah, it can go down that deep. It's a little disappointing. The first one of these I encountered, I actually had a battle against an Akula and I forget what the other one was now. I think it was a Papa. And that was a really interesting battle while I was doing some testing of the mod just to make sure it was going to be playable. So we're going to use a little time acceleration here. So I'm doing a standard hook shot here. Now the way the tactics here work regardless, because the tactics are actually all the kind of things that submarine crews would do in real life. And we've just lost it as she's made the turn, but that's fine. We will pick her back up again. The way the AI is going to react to the tactics is now significantly different with this mod, and the effectiveness of the weapons is different. You'll notice when the torpedoes get close to target, they don't immediately pick it up as soon as it gets inside of the magic triangle. Torpedo launched. I imagine the Foxtrot has detected the torpedo at this time, so I'm going to turn in. fact, we're going to activate the torpedo. Foxtrot is changing depth to match ours. Torpedo is now active. Jump back over here. So we'll turn our active off for the moment.
Con sonar, Sierra 5 is cavitating.
Yep, Sierra 5 is running. 15... Is that maximum speed? What's the maximum? Yeah, 15 knots. So 15 knots, so it's at maximum. We're at 37 knots, so we're going to catch it without any issues here. It's just a matter of time. And there's the torpedo. And it's just gone active. The Foxtrot did in fact detect our torpedo and not our submarine, and although that's to be expected for a Foxtrot. And I reckon... Just looking at this, I reckon the Foxtrot is a little bit further north. We're not getting any countermeasures. It's a bit deeper. Right, so we're going to manually depth change here, and I'm going to chase it down. The torpedoes are a little bit more temperamental in this. They're a little bit harder to get to lock on. So I'm going to make sure the torpedo is at the approximate depth. The question, where is it? We're actively pinging, and we're at a depth where it should pick it up.
Sonar, noisemaker bearing 353.
Alright, so there's the noisemaker. Torpedo is continually trying to dive back down to that countermeasure.
Noisemaker bearing 353.
So what I'm going to do is bring the torpedo all the way to the surface so it's above the thermal layer, because that seems to be where the Foxtrot is trying to run to. And nope, tries to go back down again. It will not. There it is, we've got the Foxtrot. This is one of the things I would actually like to see guided for the record. I would actually like to see an option to turn off torpedo self-guidance when you're trying to manually operate it like this. Alright, now we should be able to turn it back in. Following depth. And again, it takes the countermeasure. So you see the countermeasures are significantly more effective now. Trying to guide it in on a submarine is actually a bit of a pain. And I'm having to use a lot of manual control here to keep the countermeasures on target. And we have just crossed over the Foxtrot. And we did not hit target. So matching depth, turning torpedo back. This time, we should acquire. Now we're on self-guidance and we are actually locked onto the target. Impact. Alright, Alright, so it was only a foxtrot, but that was still an interesting little engagement. You can see it's a lot more work to be able to get the kills now. Even the foxtrot was giving me a bit of a nightmare there in manoeuvring and countermeasures, where in standard default cold waters, and even with the playable Submarine mod, it would have been a simple flick the torpedo off the countermeasure, wait 2 or 3 seconds for it to reset, and then turn it back on so it was lined up to pick up the submarine and not the countermeasure, and the torpedo would have acquired the correct target. This time, that doesn't work. Countermeasures are far more effective. Torpedoes will often ignore them as well when fired by the enemy in a manner that is not just gamey, it's more realistic, as if the enemy's torpedoes are also being guided in a similar manner to what you're doing when it comes to wire-guided torps. Automatic torps that are self-guidance with no wires tend to be fairly resistant to countermeasures. It takes a lot of work to actually throw those off. That is both when you're firing them and when they're being fired at you. And in general, things are just a little bit more interesting across the board. So this should be fun enough to play. But anyways, first submarine kill. Only a foxtrot, but hey, it does the job. We're going to pull in our towed array now, and I'm going to make a left-hand turn, which should be fine to make while the towed array is still out, because the left-hand turn will have the prop coming, or the screw coming away from the towed array. And this is just more to make sure we do not get within the sensor range of that torpedo. And that should be the end of this engagement. Alright, no vessels nearby, no weapons nearby, so we can finally leave combat. Alright, so 1 foxtrot, total tonnage 2,500, and we fired 1 torpedo for it, so that was pretty successful overall. That is not our mission objective, so we are now to continue the mission. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you very much for watching. I'm going to try and put this Cold Waters campaign up at a fairly regular basis, so you shouldn't have to wait too long between episodes. And until next time, remember to click that like button if you did, share and subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, take care.